Good morning, everybody. So yesterday was a public holiday, and a lot of people decided they'd take it nice and easy. And it means you have to be back at work today, though. I do know one or two people who've taken the day off, and tomorrow as well, and might be making full use of this weekend. But you know what? A, it's very cold, and B, these Wednesday public holidays don't work out very well. You have all the best intentions, and then it just ends up being a waste. What's that, Pums?
They're perfect if you take the 2 days off, like Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday.
Oh,
Then
yeah.
you have like a super long weekend. But I thought it was nice. I thought it was nice to kind of have a midweek break. Like
You
a
like
little, it's a bit like a siesta.
It feels harder to get back to work today, though. Don't you think it's more difficult after a day like yesterday to wake up early this morning?
Which was also such a nice day. Yesterday
That's beautiful.
It was just winter in Joburg. The sun was out, and you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my break didn't start off well because on Tuesday afternoon, I was stuck in. It's in my neighborhood, so it's one of these small roads. So we were stuck in a bit of a traffic jam because a big family van with an attached caravan had jammed on the road. It gave me a bit of like what happened a few weeks ago with the ship and the thingamabobby?
Suez Canal.
The Suez Canal.
Gave me a bit of that. It's just a bit of a weird deja vu because now we had to wait, and then everyone got out of their cars to try and tell them to reverse this way and reverse that way. It was a 13,000 point turn just for them to get out of the road. And then I thought, have fun.
Is there no other access to that road? Couldn't you just like turn around and go access the road from another?
It was just going to cause more chaos as we were going to try to do that because there's a boom gate and then there was security and then people are trying to move forward and it was a mess. Yeah, but it was only for like 15 minutes.
I don't think we should have caravans. They should be banned. Horrible thing. No, they're horrible things, Pumi. Come on. Have you ever seen a caravan and gone, that's what I want. That's what I need?
No, but I have seen a caravan and wondered why we don't have RVs here.
Yes, it's still a bit of a childhood fantasy of mine to be in one. I've never been in a caravan. I've never traveled in one before.
You can't travel in a caravan. You can't travel in it. You can't have people in the caravan when you're driving.
Only get into it once you're stationary.
Yeah,
but I know I actually hate it though. Never mind.
That makes it even more horrible. You know?
But why don't we? I wondered. I mean, literally yesterday, I wondered why don't we have RVs? Because that's a perfect thing, like a big motorhome.
Well, funny, my brother I think he's renting one. In August for the children and he and his wife to go somewhere. I think it's somewhere in the bush. And I as much as I hate caravans and I hate RVs, I'm kind of going to see how they feel about this and how it goes for them. You'll never catch me in those things ever. Not for love or for money. You can give me, and listen, I've seen those ones on those American shows where they deck them out completely. And it's like a house on wheels. It's really, it's huge and impressive. And, they can make it look really good on the inside. But it's just, I don't believe you should have that. Really.
But it will all boil down to the loo situation for me. I don't care what sort of paneling you have, what sort of lighting fixtures, whether you use real leather or not. It will boil down to the loo situation. My ancestors walked so that I could run and not have to pump my own poo out of a moving vehicle. Just now.
Enough pipe. I mean, really, come on. Horrible.
No.
When I see caravans on the road, I instantly have, I get into a bit of a temper. It's ridiculous. And they might not even be in the way. They might be in a different lane. I just see them and I imagine. Now, I know that, a lot of people growing up, didn't have a whole lot of money. Neither did I every stage of my childhood. We didn't get to go on fancy holidays and things. But I just believe it's such a step down into absolute misery to have to drive around in a caravan. I mean, really, to me, that's just the lowest of the low. There's no amount of poor. There's no
Do you
amount of
go
poor.
camping? Do you go
No,
like?
not a chance. Are you mad? I'd rather stay at home. I would rather not have a holiday than go camping.
Really?
What do you mean, really? Can you imagine me without running water and electricity?
Well, I don't know. Are caravan parks still a thing, or specifically in this country?
They are. They are.
Oh,
They are.
There were people in caravans when I went with my family to the Kruger Park the other day. Because they've got the
A section.
camp, and then a
Yeah.
part of the camp is for people who have caravans and mobile homes and that kind of thing.
okay.
No, thank you. Not for me.
Yeah, a lot of places have them, especially those places kind of like bush type places. They allow
They used to
people.
also, for me, they used to have them at the sea as well.
Really?
hmm
Woohoo.
Remember there was one beach we went to when we were kids, and then just a little bit further down there was another beach with people who were in caravans. I don't know why, because clearly I'm the only one who has a problem with this. No one else seems to have the issue that I have with it. It's probably just
It's
a me thing.
practical. Let's think of the plus side. It's practical.
Okay. Yeah. Go
Um,
on. What else? How's it practical?
What do you think they do with it? What do you think they do with it when they're at home, when they're not traveling? Do they use it as a spare room at the back of the yard?
You can see it parked in some neighborhoods. You can see people, they have like their little gate on the side of their house or whatever, and you see the caravan just chilling there. I think it just gets
There's-
dirty, dusty, and revolting. Ugh.
there's a particular friend of mine who I sometimes just dread visiting because of the configuration of their garages and their yard. They
Yeah.
have the caravan parked right
Oh, you see?
next to the garage. Then when you get
Ugh.
into the garage, then there's two canoes on top. And then it's just too much stuff. They're a whole big adventure family. So what else do they have there? I'm trying to actually picture what I have to dodge and duck as I drive in. There's a whole tool box
I know the
section,
kind of
and it's
I know
just
the kind of
too
people
much.
you're talking about, right? They're the kind of people who you see them on the on the highway on public holidays or when you're going down to the coast, and they've
Which
got
is what I saw yesterday.
they've got a
Yes,
car, they got a caravan, they've got a trailer, they've got
they do
bikes
have a
on the
trailer.
There we
They
go.
do have a trailer.
bikes on the trailer. They've got a roof rack with a fucking canoe on it. Then they've got a jet ski or a 4-wheeler on a trailer. It's just
Wow.
too much. It's like, really, what
Oh,
are
look
you?
at that. Look at Tracy's. Tracy went with her kids on a luxury camper.
Okay, let's listen to this story. She goes, we did a trip in a camper van, a luxury camper van. It was great. Our own bathroom, down duvets, all the luxury. I can't stand caravans and camping in dust. This was great. I'm not convinced. Sorry.
Still
And
not.
Katu.
Katu Cat says, one of my best holidays as a kid was when we went in a caravan. We read books and we ate biscuit the whole day. I think it was like during an April holiday. Yeah, I look, when you're a kid, I think it's exciting, but then you develop pride and you decide this is not for me. Yeah, sorry.
What a particular thing that really irks you, Gareth. It's
Among the
bit-
many.
Yeah,
Among
like
the
to-
many.
I'd
You're
like
such a
to
grumpy
compare that-
cat this morning.
No, I'm not grumpy about this. I just think caravans should all be destroyed. It's a bad reflection on humanity. It's embarrassing for all of us. Is your house on wheels? I mean, come on, do me a favor. Maybe it's because so many of the very worst people that I've encountered also happen to have caravans. Maybe that's why they poisoned me against caravans at a young age. There might be very
Oh,
nice
wow.
people who have them, but I remember when I was a kid, I always thought that the people in caravans were shit, and maybe they gave me reason to think that, and therefore I've carried that into adulthood. So I'm poisoned against them effectively. Maybe that's what's happened.
Sure.
Yes.
Therapy can cure you.
So we
Yes.
went to, I went with some friends for a beautiful lunch. Pums, you know Casalinga, right? It's like a Joburg,
Yes.
like a
Yes.
Joburg institution. And I was very worried about them because I remember about this time last year, we heard that they were closing down forever, that
Mm.
coronavirus had shut them down. Well, they're back, they're up and running. Had a lovely lunch there yesterday and just people everywhere. It was packed. So
W-
good
And
news.
and they also have they have like a vegan or alternative food
Yep,
section,
they do.
which yeah, which has all of the like all the plant-based eating.
That's right. They have an organic farm there, and it's nice if you have kids because they look after the kids. They do face painting and they make them do treasure hunts. And so if you're a mom or a dad and you bring your kid along, you know there's something for you to do, or for them to do while you're busy with your friends. It's quite nice.
'Cause I love that place.
To be
Mm.
out there then with yesterday's sun must have been
Exactly.
Oh,
No, it was magic. It
sumptuous.
was really nice. Yeah. So that was a good break from reality. And my sister is moving in. She and her boyfriend have bought a house, and they've been working on this for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, but like seriously working, doing all the kind of difficult stuff, painting and sanding things,
ugh.
and that's hard work. But they're very excited. So I went and popped in there and just to see what they were up to. Um, doing all the
They're
difficult stuff.
moving into their house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. You
Together.
didn't finish that statement, and I was already silently praying for you, saying, I hope renovations were not delayed and they need a place to move into, so they were going to
Mm-mm.
move in with you. I was
No,
already
no,
praying for
no,
you.
no, look, I love my family. If they were in a tight spot, sure, I'd help them out. If something terrible
Ooh.
happened, of course I'd help them out. But I realized, I realized a while ago, I like my space. And even if I have a really, really good friend, and I've got lots of friends who I love to pieces, but if they stayed here for more than a night, I would not. The friendship would be under enormous strain.
Yeah, yeah, look, house guests are a thing. But
Mm.
I'm just thinking about all that sanding and painting and all of that. And I'm getting to that place. I've lived in my place now for about 15 years. And it was brand new when I moved in because we built it from scratch, right? And now it's that house that, like, everything. First of all, the maintenance of a house. I'm learning the
Oh,
lesson the ANC has never learned, that maintenance is an ongoing thing, right? You
right.
don't wait until it's all broken down and then
Correct.
start fixing. You've got to do it all the time. But I'm at that place where I feel like the house is so old now. You can't get
Mm.
anything properly clean anymore, right? It's like
I know what you
been
mean.
touched for 15 years. This door, no matter how much you like wipe it with it's been
Mhm.
like people touching it for 15 years. This particular space in the stove that's hard to get to, and
I know what you
ugh.
mean.
I'm feeling like I feel it's such a like an adult thing, and I'm just like, we've been sold a dud,
Well,
guys. This
but this
being an adult,
I know
Oof.
being an adult, but also this idea of property ownership being a really good thing.
it's
It's
stupid.
not a good thing,
You
right? It's
reckon?
hard.
I do. I wish I could like find a new place and just move into a fresh, brand new place. Also, you get bored, right? Also,
Hmm.
I've lived here for so long. And when we first moved in, lots of people were still not hadn't built their places, but now the complex is actually getting quite full. People are and when we moved in, it was kind of in that dip when a lot of people had well, money was scarce and there was the financial crash, so a lot of people didn't build right away. For a very long time I lived in the complex and there were like two or three houses, and now there's lots of people here, and now it's just
See, we are moaning this morning, but this is what happens when you get old as well. You start moaning. I mean,
just
uh, house according to Mandla, house guests are like fresh fish. They go off after 2 or 3 days. Exactly.
Amen.
yeah.
But
Well,
this
they
whole
should go off after 2 or 3 days. Well, if they don't, becomes a worse problem.
Pum, you know the whole thing about owning a property, because this is really what most of us are raised from a young age to believe is the sign of success in South Africa, right? If you can own your own house, and you can make your house yours, and you put a nail in the wall, and you don't have to worry because you're not renting. But I don't believe that much anymore. I think it's like it's a trap.
Wow.
It's a
a
trap.
trap. It's a trap.
As soon as you
All the young people listening today,
Yeah,
trust
don't fall
me.
for this. I mean, the millennials, most of them have got it right. Is they rent and they don't buy, and you don't, and also the idea of owning another property is a stupid one, because that's another set of maintenance. It's another set of concerns and responsibilities. Own as little as possible in terms of property. I don't think it's a winner. Like, unless you are a farmer who needs land and you need to grow crops on the land, and you need to be involved in that soil. I think that the idea of owning a house and having to maintain it the whole time, which is precisely what Pumi was talking about a second ago, that's huge work. It's a massive expense, and it never stops. Just when you think you've got everything together and you're like, oh, good, I've fixed all the windows, because there were windows that were, I don't know, cracked, or there were frames that needed replacing, or the rain comes in here, or whatever. You sort that out. Just when you've got it sorted out, something else pops up.
It's interesting that you guys mentioned that frustration, which is different to the one that I'm feeling now. I've been renting for, I'd say, 5 years, and I have this frustration of not feeling like I have my own space. Just to do exactly what you were alluding to, Gareth. I want to be able to paint a wall and feel like, yeah, this is the
Why
color that
can't
I
you?
want. And because it's not my place. I want to, well, I want to have, this particular
Fuchsia pink.
No. But I do want to have a statement black wall. So I know that wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea. I've always had a vision of like this floating
But you can
shelf
do
that I
that.
want,
But you can do that. You can do that.
I just feel like
Don't you? If you have a long lease, you can paint and do whatever, and then you just have to paint it back white when you leave.
For a year, it's not worth it for that sort of investment.
You've been there for 5 years, yeah, man.
But then I always debate it every year as well.
The other thing is, so before I had a house, I lived in an apartment, and I had bought it, but you have to have nice neighbors. You have to you have to know the complex well. It has to be in a convenient place, and all the rest of it. You really have to love the place. And a friend of mine was telling me at lunch yesterday, he's been living next to these nightmare neighbors. They would fight with each other. There was a man and a woman, and they would fight day and night, and they would scream at each other. Police would come. The police would be knocking on the door. They would be shouting at the police. They'd be saying, "You can't come in." The police would say, "We're going to break down the door." All of this happening while he was trying to go to sleep at night. And he said this was going on for like 2 years, and eventually they got evicted like last week or whatever. But he says he's had it. So, you get living in a complex which is pleasant, and then you get living in a complex which is horrible. And I mean, there are some places in Joburg that are just, the complexes are too big. There are too many people around. You don't know who you're going to end up next to. And it can really, it's like a roll of a dice. If you throw a 1, you're in big trouble for a long time. If you throw a 6, you're the luckiest person in Joburg. It can happen. You never know.
Well, I've never envisioned myself living in a house in any case. So,
really?
Yeah. Oh, no, the killer. Sorry. So,
what do you mean the killer only targets housing?
The idea of living in a standalone house just for
Nightmare on Elm
myself
Street.
is exactly a nightmare on Elm Street. To drive into a yard with a long driveway at night, and then the trees that I thought were so storybook-like and picturesque when I bought it would now haunt me, because I'm thinking this is exactly where the killer could jump from. And then I'm thinking, I would essentially be perfect to live in a box. I like to be able to sit in one corner and still have my eye on the other corner. Really, like even with an apartment, I love the fact that I can sort of have my eye on everything all at once and feel comforted by that. Too many
But see,
nooks
why
and
do you
crannies
think?
and corners.
No, what do you think these people are who have these security cameras all over their house? And these days, you don't have to pay a fortune to have that done. You can almost buy a wireless system, which you connect at your door, and you can have it. And in an apartment or a house, you've got certain places you need to know what's going on, but the rest of it, like you're being paranoid, man. Put me this
I
is
know being
paranoid.
I
paranoid,
am
but
just, this is also,
it's
this is
not going to happen for me.
like, see, there are 50 other houses on the street. Why would they come to your house? Why is the killer coming to your
Nope.
Who do you think you are that the killer wants you in particular?
How annoying do you think you are that somebody's trying to
Even
kill you?
wow, even just not for anyone really coming out to kill me. It's just my paranoia. I would not be able to. I need somewhere closed. A complex is comforting to me. So that has always been my
See,
vision.
What if the killer is part
they've
of the
got
complex?
therapy for that.
What are
They
the
do.
chances that the killer would want to strike in a complex? There are
Higher
too
than,
many moving parts than a standalone house.
how do you reckon that complexes get hit less than houses? How do you get that in? I mean, that's a preconceived idea that I
Because
challenge.
there's too much space in a standalone house. The yard is too big. Your screams will be muffled in the storage that you have and the trees. Woo.
Your screams will be muffled. Oh, Sia. Oh, Sia.
We need to while Dr. Hanan is on Mondays, we need to get you to sit down with him and explain. This is very important. Orksy Head says 2 words: fun brada. That's what you get in a complex. I mean, that was inside the family who lived with the there was the one kid, the fun brada, Henry Fun Brada. It was him. That family thought they were safe in a complex.
No,
Remember?
See, and I just want you to know that most people are murdered by people they know. They could be in your apartment.
Exactly
and hence
right.
why then I should not move in with anyone. As soon as I leave this place, not talking to anyone. It's done.
No. You're full of it because this is.
Do you have a roommate, Sia?
He has a housemate, yeah.
How do you luxuriate with the housemate?
Oh, no, we have a great dynamic. And she works a lot of like crazy, weird hours. So, yeah, I get to walk around naked then.
Whoa.
Very exciting.
Well, then.
That's what you wanted to know.
Hey, clearly it's not just you, Sia, because Michelle says, my thoughts exactly. I like to see the door from anywhere in my house.
Wow.
You have a very small house.
No, it's comforting to know where everything stands, where everything is.
Admin says, in a complex, the killer is locked in with you. That's exactly right. Exactly. And then I love my home surrounded by a nature reserve with a view of the sea, says Andre.
Oh,
my
wow.
God, 50 trees and no need for security. Well, I mean, that sounds amazing, Andre, but
sure,
that's you're pretty much in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there's a part of me that is really attracted to the idea of living far away from other humans. But then I think about it and I go, no. In those horror movies, those are the people who get killed. The ones who are far, like in the wilderness, in a log cabin. That's where the killer, the shadows creep up the
Blair
wall.
Witch. That's where the Blair Witch is.
And I think, no, that'll be much less safe. So I don't know, Andre. That's your call. Lucky asking a very rude question: is Pumi on Coke? I wonder why he's saying that.
Wow.
Lucky, what's
I don't
going
even drink Coca-Cola no more. Very mad at Aaron Mtswaledi. Now, since they've reduced the sugar.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Oh gosh, did you hear about the Cristiano Ronaldo debacle?
He moved 2 cans of Coke that were on the table. So what's happened there? Because I saw the video, but I don't know what the whole furore is about.
So people who want to believe that Cristiano's like this big and influential people believe the story. Then some finance people are like, please, if you think then he dropped the share price of Coke just by doing that, then you are silly. I really actually don't know what to believe. But long story short, he was at a press conference.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can get the specifics for you sports people if you really want to know, but whatever soccer thing is happening right now.
Yeah.
Oh, the Budapest. No, he wasn't Budapest. What is it? The Portugal versus Hungary Euro 2020.
Euro 2020.
Thank you.
Okay.
He was there, a press conference for that. And interestingly enough, Coca-Cola is one of the main sponsors there. So he sat at a desk and Coke was plonked on the table. And he moved the Coke aside and actually said, he referenced water. He said agua. And he pulled the water and then proceeded to take a chug of it. So now that was seen as a sign of, oh my goodness, Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't think Coca-Cola is healthy and he wants water.
No one thinks Coca-Cola is healthy. No one.
Who in the world? Who's still laboring under the misconception that Coca-Cola is healthy? I mean, who's that idiot?
Nobody.
Coca-Cola would like to.
No, they do not. And everybody
in their
knows.
Statement, they wanted to seem we are the world and we cater for more people, alas. So yeah, subsequently, or just could have been a coincidence when the markets opened following that, the share price of Coca-Cola went down by 1.6%. Which wiped out easily about $4 billion US of Coke's price.
Well, according to Jermaine, Paul Pogba did the same thing with Heineken and removed it from the table in front of him. And I wonder if that also affected their price. Look,
I assume that's the Muslim soccer player, right? Because I think it was at the same place where he moved beer out of the way.
Okay, well, I mean, listen, whatever it is, does anyone still really believe that someone like Cristiano Ronaldo drinks Coca-Cola when he's on his own at home? Absolutely not. Like, if you're a fit sports person, you stay away from Coca-Cola. It's like death. You don't drink that stuff, right?
Yeah, then my thoughts are, did he really make it happen, or was it just a coincidence?
Coinkydink.
Oh. All right, well, we've got to get to headlines, so let's see what's happening in the world. Make sure that we can make sense of this craziness around us. Don't forget, later on, the Burning Platform is a part of what we've got on offer for you. We also
start with the Euro 2021 scores.
Yeah, because we're so on top of that on this show. And we've also got Sean Sanders joining us from Revix to talk us through the latest developments in the world of cryptocurrencies. So all of that is happening in the next while. And by the way, I mentioned this on Tuesday. Have you had a chance yet to visit the Tom's Art Grand Opening Sale, which started just yesterday? I know, Sia, you were going to go because you want to buy some stuff to put on your walls and to put in your house. If not, there is still time. It ends on Sunday. That's Father's Day, and you'll find Tom's signature classical art, furniture, and accessories at 50% off. Pumi, maybe that's what you need to do to just make your house a little more exciting for you, since you've got a bit bored with it and you want something new. So maybe you should go along there. Everything on their floor is 50% off. That's amazing.
Nice.
It doesn't apply to custom orders, but there is free delivery, also free installation and free consultation. So you need to go along and ask these people for what they've got and also find out if they can do something specifically for you. Of course, those custom orders are pretty awesome as well, and you can get them to deliver this for free installation and free consultation. But everything on the floor is at 50%. Don't miss this opportunity to pick up a classic bargain. Get to their Cromerville showroom. It's at 15 Dartfield Road in Cromerville. That's 15 Dartfield Road in Cromerville from today at 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. Same thing tomorrow, Saturdays and Sundays from 8 to 3 p.m. for some amazing, amazing bargains. That's Tom's Art in Cromerville. And make sure that you tell them Cliff Central sent you, and they might just give you a cup of tea or something. Sounds good, right?
Hey, if you need some last-minute Father's Day shopping as well. If you really want to impress your dad and make it look like you were thinking about him for weeks on end.
Yeah, you've planned this very carefully. Yeah. I I stayed in yesterday. No, not yesterday evening. The evening before, the Tuesday night. There were a whole lot of people doing things, and I thought, no. It's too cold. I made a fire. I stayed at home. It was so nice. I actually sat on the floor in front of the fire in my house, and I was like, yo, what I need in this room is a mirror over there. And I thought I better go along to Tom's Art. So you can go today, 50% off, and tomorrow all the way through until Sunday. Go and pick up a bargain and something that you'll love, something that you'll really, really love about a particular place in your house that needed something and you didn't know it until you put it up there. All right. Annette asks, is there any news on the decaplets, those 10 babies?
Yeah.
We do have news for you. We'll get to that just now. We've got the latest update from the family. It's just such a mess. Right, Sia? I mean, there's no other way to say it.
From the dad's family.
Oh, my. Really.
That's the statement. The statement was from the father's family.
Correct.
It wasn't from the mother and father. Yes.
Right.
I'm too invested in the story and I hate it now.
I told you last week, Sia. I told you last week that this thing.
You did. That's what you said.
Now I want to see those babies. I need to see the babies. I need a heartbeat reading. I need something.
You are very...
Even a scan. Even just a sonar scan.
Sia has got a sunken cost in terms of his commitment to this story, and now he's expecting a return. All right, before we get to that, though, there's some stories in the news. Yeah?
Just very quickly, I'll expand on this. There is a Robert De Niro movie from the early 2000s that I don't think got a lot of buzz around it, but it's called Simone, and it's spelled S1, M-O-N-E. And the premise of it very quickly is Robert De Niro is the suffering Hollywood director, and he's trying to make movies, doesn't really crack it, and he's trying to get the world excited about movies again. So he creates this ultimate gorgeous actress as a leading lady for this movie called Simone. It's Al Pacino. Thank you. I've been corrected by Monica. And so creates her all virtually using computers and graphics and fools the world for a very long time that Simone is real, but she's a recluse. And then Simone starts selling albums, and then Simone endorses things. Simone makes so much money and the whole world is fooled. A couple of days ago, I looked at this 10 Business 10 story and I thought, is this a Simone situation? Are they trying to get us invested in news again? And
well, doesn't it
Dude,
also show you
people have been donating money. People were donating money. Like that. Oh gosh, this thing is a scam, y'all. It's a scam.
To the point where the father has to say, "Please halt on donations for now." How much money must he have received?
Well, it shows you how many nice people there are, but also how gullible they are. Because this is and what stories interest people. Like, I don't give a fuck if someone has 10 children. I feel sorry for those people, but I don't care about that. It's not a news story to me. Clearly in this country, though, we have lots of people who are fascinated by the fact that one woman could pop out 10 kids, and that's what got the attention. So we'll talk about
the family to do a very Michael Jackson-esque thing. It will boost tourism as well. Go to one of these suffering hotels right now, stand at the balcony and whip all those kids out. I need to see all of those kids. Then I'll believe in the story.
What?
All right.
And create a super spreader event? There can only be 50 people at the hotel balcony.
Good.
So here's some news. Former Eskom board chair and businessman Jabu Mabuza has passed away from COVID-19 complications. Mabuza had a long career in business. He started as a taxi owner in the 1980s. In recent years, he served as Eskom's acting CEO and chairperson, the group CEO of Tsogosan, and also chair of the Telkom board for a while. So, he was considered a really useful cadre to be deployed into these various places. But the news of his passing was announced on Wednesday evening. In his statement, his loved ones described him as a pillar of strength and a servant to his country who fought gallantly for political and economic freedom. He's survived by his wife Siviwe and 3 children. And that is Jabu Mabuza. And apparently, Pumi, it was because he had the first shot of the vaccine and had a bad reaction to it or something.
No, I don't know if it was because he had a reaction to it, but I do know that he had his first jab of the vaccine. So, yeah.
Very, very.
And
I mean, it's sad when anyone goes, and I know he was very much involved in a lot of the dodgy dealings that were going on at some of these parastatals. But as far as I can tell, he was one of the people who had cleaner hands than some of the others, and he was regarded quite highly among not only his political compatriots, but also by some people in business. So, I mean, it's very, very sad to see Jabu Mabuza's demise, and not exactly an old man either. He wasn't a very old man. He was in his 60s. Anyway, so that's the story there. 20 burnt bodies of suspected zamazamas have been found in Orkney. Now, zamazamas are these people who do this low-level mining. They dig around in
illegal,
but they also dig around in mines that have been shut down, that have been condemned, and they try to find like a little scrap of gold or a little diamond or whatever, and they try to sell it illegally. And police near Klerksdorp made an awful discovery after the bodies of 20 unidentified men suspected to be illegal miners were found over 2 days. They said the bodies, all with severe burn wounds and wrapped in plastic bags, were found on the 15th and 16th of June. So this was not an accident. Evidently, if people
and someone had already somebody was there trying to clean up the scene.
Correct. And they found all these bodies on the 15th and 16th of June. The first 5 were found at approximately 7 p.m. on Tuesday outside an old and unused mine shaft in Lawrence Park. 14 more were located on Wednesday near the railway line in Orkney. While still processing the scene, the police received information that another body was discovered where the initial 5 were found, bringing the total number to 20. And now, we don't know who these people are. We have to identify them still. But life for a zamazama, for these illegal miners, these people are just desperate. And I don't know if you heard that story last week that was in the news about Ladysmith. They said they'd found diamonds just on the topsoil basically, and there were people who drove there from Durban, people who just desperate, poor, unemployed people who they just need to have a little bit of money to survive that month, and they're busy scrambling around trying to grab alluvial diamonds off the soil in Ladysmith, and it's highly unlikely that any of them were diamonds in the first place. But you've got to feel at least a little bit of compassion. You certainly have to. It should make all of us feel a little bit, helpless, sad, depressed, uneasy about the fact that there are so many people in this country who are just trying so desperately to find anything that they can sell, that they can make a cent off of, because they don't have anything else. Look, there's no hope, and you've got to, unless you're a complete monster, find some compassion in your heart for these people, regardless of the fact that they're obviously completely misguided. It shows you the level of their desperation. And this is true for these zamazamas too. Now, if there are 20 people whose bodies have just been found and nobody reported them missing, nobody seems to be able to identify them. Look, it's only a day or two, so there may still be some information. But this life is cheap, hey? Life is cheap. In some places, life has no value. And you've got to feel desperately, desperately sorry for the families and the communities that live in these kinds of squalor and this kind of sadness and misery and deprivation, because for 20 bodies to just pitch up and nobody ever reported they were missing, they've clearly been there a long time too. Anyway, speaking of illegal mining, there was also a gas explosion, and this happened in the northwest. Apparently a gas explosion has caused some kind of tragedy in a disused mine shaft. And the National Association of Artisanal Miners received a video by an illegal miner from their members in the area. About 200 more artisanal miners that are underground have been injured, and there are more fatalities, but we are not sure of the numbers because the fatalities are in different levels of the mine. This is such difficult work. And again, they're illegal miners, but they've got to try and find money somewhere. Police have made a number of arrests following a day of often violent protests in Harrismith. The residents of Intambazwe have been hurling rocks and petrol bombs at the N3 highway. They're demanding that the president come and address their service delivery grievances. On Wednesday, a truck was petrol bombed on the N3. Police are monitoring the situation. Now, again, I know that these are also desperate people, right? But it's amazing to me that they take out this anger and this ire and this vengeance and this violence on like anonymous truck drivers who are just trying to deliver stuff that probably don't live anywhere near Harrismith. I suppose it's just because Harrismith is one of those towns that a highway goes through, and that's the only thing that makes Harrismith interesting. If you've got a bad service delivery in a place like Harrismith, then you should go to your mayor's house and you should be protesting outside the mayor's house, outside the municipal manager's house. It's not some truck driver's fault that you're upset and unhappy, that your city or town has been run into the ground. And I would go to the local ANC branch because I guarantee you, Harrismith is one of those places that has been mismanaged for years. You don't take it out on the truck driver. And I mean, there's a limit to all that explanation that people make excuses for this kind of violence and behavior. They'll say, "Oh well, these people are sad and they're desperate and they don't have anywhere to turn." But you don't take it out on a truck driver. Imagine if your uncle or your brother or your cousin was a truck driver and he's employed to drive stuff from Durban to Joburg, and he's not involved in politics and he's not involved in anything. He gets petrol bombed. I mean, that he could die from the fire that breaks out there. He could be hit in the head. Something terrible could happen. It's not right that these communities take this out on complete strangers. And I understand they're frustrated, but you can't tantrum. You must go to the people who've caused the trouble. Anyway, that's Harrismith. And then finally, doctors killed Maradona via negligence, says the nurse's lawyer. That's the latest. I mean, this Maradona thing. So, I mean, clearly the people of Argentina thought that Maradona would live forever. And even though he was hardly...
No matter what he was doing to his body.
Correct. Thank you very much. They're trying desperately to prove that Maradona was some kind of Superman and that he would have lived. And his doctors are to blame. Let me just give some advice to anyone who is... like Dr. Conrad Murray, who treated Michael Jackson, or these doctors who treated Maradona. You can never do a good enough job for the fans, for the fanatics. The fanatics will think it's your fault no matter what happens. So don't do this. Don't go and work for somebody who's extremely rich and famous and popular, because you're going to get the blame if it doesn't go exactly right. He died of a heart attack at the age of 60. And that was after undergoing brain surgery for a blood clot, Maradona. This doctor, the one doctor, Gisela Madrid, is being questioned by prosecutors. And they are one of 7 people under investigation for manslaughter after a board of experts looking into Maradona's death found he had received inadequate care and was abandoned to his fate for a prolonged, agonizing period. They insisted it was the doctors treating Maradona while he recovered from the brain operation, not the nurse in question who were to blame for his death. I mean, what difference does it make? He's dead. And he would have died anyway because of the huge amounts of coke he was doing every single day. Yeah. I mean, it's just, how about that? That hasn't come up once, Look over here, everybody. Look over here. Don't look over here where the coke is. Like, he had huge fat lines of coke around him. Everywhere he went, on planes, on trains, on boats, wherever Maradona was, there's a big bag of cocaine somewhere. But that never comes up in these investigations. It's like, no. He didn't do coke. Are you mad?
Oh, Maradona. Oh, Maradona.
So that's what we've got in the news headlines. I do want to go back to that story of the 10 kids, the decaplets, as they're called, because the family released a statement. And I can't make head or tail of this thing. I mean, we can blame our news networks to a certain degree, but clearly this was a coordinated effort to misinform people, right? And in the world of fake news, This has got to be one of the top fake news stories. They can't find the kids. They can't find the mother. The father's family have released a statement to say, hey, we knew that we only knew what we knew because the husband had been tipped off by a relative. But like he's nowhere near. He hasn't seen the kids, apparently. This is the father of the children. That's what we know so far. Nothing.
There are so many angles and facets to the story. Starting, Sia, I know you're very invested, so you have every single minute detail, right? So first comes out, and this so a week ago, after we'd spoken about it, right? Then comes the story that actually this woman and this guy were actually having an affair. This guy's married to someone else. And at the time last week, we hadn't figured out if they have other children or but there are so many multiple births in this story, right? Because there are triplets somewhere along the way, another set of twins.
Elder twins who are 6.
And then the statement that was released was the family of the father. So Tsotetse. They called and they are the ones that had opened a missing persons case for this woman, because they were like, they don't know where she is, they can't get hold of her, but this guy, who the father has never seen the kids, has never been to a single prenatal appointment, has never, so dereliction of duty, just as a father, even if it's one child or 20 children, this guy he's been nowhere for the full duration of this woman's pregnancy journey. But he was there to pose for a picture with the big check with Iqbal. I was just like, this thing.
Well, they did release this statement now that they can't prove anything, that they'd like people to hold off on donations because they're not going to take any more money, because they don't know for sure that these kids are around, and until they can actually present the kids to everybody, then they'll take.
So I have a theory about that. I think they're not saying they're saying people should stop making donations into bank accounts that say they are for the kids. So I think what they're actually doing, I think there are people out there scamming, sending out bankers. This is the bank account. If you want to donate to the family, put the money here.
Right. And people just accept that is what it is, but it's actually a big scam.
Scam. It has nothing. None of that money is going to the family. In their statement, nobody said anything about the supposed R1 million that was donated by Iqbal.
Well, I don't think that's for real. That's for sure. I mean, that's probably the biggest fake news of the whole thing, that Iqbal Serve would donate anybody any money. I mean, he's there's no way that guy's a philanthropist. But we're going to have to park it for a little bit longer. And if you've got any theories on this, I see Monica says, I think it's a big lie that went too far and just spiraled out of control. And now they can't put it back in the bottle. Maybe that's it. But we've got to get to Sean Sanders, because he's going to update us on what's been going on in the world of cryptocurrencies. He's, of course, the co-founder of Revix, and he's here to tell us all about it. Good morning, Sean. How are you doing, man? Nice to see you again. Sean, you there? We can't hear you. Don't know what's going on. Can you guys hear him?
Nope.
No. Not sure why, Sean. We can't hear you. Check your... there we go. Now we got you. Yes.
Sorry about that. Anyway, good morning. I hope you're doing well.
Good morning.
So,
extremely well. What's been happening?
Busy week, Gareth. As usual, you've had the ultimate crypto influencer, Musk, doing his thing. So, I mean, we can go back a little bit, right? So you had, on the 5th of May, you had Musk coming out saying that Tesla was no longer going to be accepting Bitcoin as a means of payment because of the high environmental impact that mining and all the rest has. And that caused Bitcoin to drop about 12% that day. And that was $150 billion being pulled out of the market. So with a B. It's a lot of money that came out of the market from crypto's biggest fanboy back in the day. And then on Sunday, Musk tweeted that his car company would be potentially accepting Bitcoin again in the future as a means of payment, should at least 50% of the Bitcoin that's being mined come from renewable sources. And this caused Bitcoin to skyrocket 10%. So a lot of that money came back into the market. So, I mean, to say that this is a bit ridiculous is an understatement. I mean, I've been in the crypto space for quite some time, and I'm like, my word, the fact that somebody can sort of manipulate the market in this way is, it just shows the infancy of the space, really. And I mean, again, that's...
Doesn't it impact also on how the people who are involved in cryptocurrency seem to idolize someone like Elon Musk? I mean, you have been very clear about this from the beginning. You've got to be in this for the long haul. There is massive value to be made, but this is not a quick trade, a quick buy and sell. Unless you're one of those people who is a speculator, you've either got to believe in the underlying technology, and there's plenty of evidence to show that Ethereum is going to be the backbone of so many new innovations and so many really useful applications of blockchain technology. But the fact is, like, a lot of people are just hero worshipping Elon Musk. If he says do this, they all go for it. If he says do that, then they all suddenly pull away. This is childish stuff, huh? You talk about the infancy. I think there's so many people who suddenly have access to the internet, and you could see it on social media, that really they shouldn't even have access to a phone, let alone the internet.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's fascinating, though. I mean, like I said before as well, when this market pulled back, I mean, a lot of our customers went and sold, and that is the wrong time to be selling, right? I mean, again, look at this over the long term. Look at that longer term opportunity. And that's what we've been advocating at Revix for ages. Again, it's a lot easier said than done. When your investment's down 10, 15%, that doesn't feel good. And when it's up 10 or 15%, you want to take profits. But something that I learned from being in the investment space for quite some time is, when something increases in value and you sort of have that momentum behind that investment, like, that's the time you're meant to hold on. Like the real, they call them 10 baggers. The real, good investments that you have in your career are those that you hold over, multiple years that increase in value, not 1 or 2 times, but 10, 15, 20 times. And that's still the opportunity in the crypto space. I personally see the fact that Musk is able to manipulate the market in the way that he can as a huge opportunity, because you're looking at an asset class at the moment which is very emotional, and that if you're looking at, let's say, gold, I mean, no one can influence the market of gold in quite the same way as Musk can. So, over 2, 3, 4 years, when you've got central banks and other big corporates buying into Bitcoin, that's going to change the space materially, and all of a sudden Musk's tweets won't have such a big impact.
So what's on your own personal agenda when it comes to investing at the moment? Because a lot of people say, all right, fine, it's now trading at what, $38,822 for a Bitcoin, and Ethereum's at $2,426 right now. Are either of those really a bargain at this stage, or would you more want to go into Ethereum? Would you perhaps want to buy some of the smaller ones, some Cardano? You've spoken about them before, maybe some Monero. I mean, what's worth speculating on? And I know that this isn't the purpose of this feature. We don't get you here to give us actual investment advice. We're talking much more generally about cryptocurrencies. But if someone said to you, well, I've got like 1,000 Rand, what do you think it would be best served going into? Would it be best to put it into just plain old Bitcoin? Can I bet on that? Is it better to rather diversify that portfolio and buy an index on Revix? What would you suggest is the best way to go?
I mean, I'm totally biased here, right? But no, let's look at the data, right? So if you're looking at the data, and this is the reason that we created our bundles at Revix, right? If you look at the returns over the last 12 months, you had our top 10 bundle outperform Bitcoin by 3 times. If you go back 3 years, you've seen roughly about a 2 to 4x outperformance of the top 10 bundle. You go back 5, 6, 7 years, I mean, you're looking at a substantial outperformance of that top 10 bundle. I mean, you're talking like 3, 4, 5x. And the reason for that is, remember, Bitcoin right now is $1 trillion asset. Like, it is really big. So for that to increase 10%, you're looking at significant amounts of money having to enter the market and be removed from the market. If you're looking at some of the smaller cryptocurrencies, and by small, I'm not talking like some of these weird and wonderful altcoins. I'm talking about still cryptocurrencies within the top 10. the emergence of Ethereum over the last 12 months, I mean, that has returned about 800% over the last 12 months. It's those sort of opportunities, and that's the second biggest cryptocurrency. So think about the likes of Cardano, think about the likes of, you mentioned Monero. So some of these other cryptocurrencies that are still sort of in their own infancy, they were only created 3, 4, 5, 6 years after, in some cases even like 7 or 8 years after Bitcoin. And that's the opportunity now, because remember, at the end of the day, what is a cryptocurrency? It's essentially a network. And people are able to buy into that network. And in some cases, there's a limited supply, and in some cases, there's not a limited supply. And at the end of the day, it's a technology. It is a technology that you're investing in. And if you're buying Bitcoin, I mean, you're buying a very robust, because it is the oldest cryptocurrency in existence, a very robust and tested technology. If you're buying into the likes of Ethereum or more, that's sort of like a V2 cryptocurrency, or you're looking at some of the newer and more novel cryptocurrencies, the likes of Cardano, the likes of Tron, the likes of EOS, you're looking at essentially more modern technology, just without those network effects and without the sort of tried and tested network. So there's these trade-offs the entire time. But, again, we can't pick which of these cryptocurrencies, and that's the ultimate wisdom in the space. You can't pick which cryptocurrency is going to be the success story of next year, or which cryptocurrency the likes of Amazon is going to potentially build some decentralized application on, or Microsoft's going to use in the future. So for for all intents and purposes, our sort of our process really is to say, listen, take a diversified approach. Own the majority of the cryptocurrencies in the market.
And you're still not a huge fan of Dogecoin?
No, I'm not. Unfortunately, it doesn't do anything, right? I mean, it's hard to sell a cryptocurrency that's solely there for gambling purposes. And don't get me wrong, there's a big part of this whole crypto market that's there for gambling purposes. But Dogecoin's just no.
I heard the most brilliant thing the other day. I heard people, and this kind of marries into what you've just said. And I wonder if Pumi and Sia have some input on this, but that we are such an emotional species as humans. If we could ratchet down our emotionality by, I don't know, just 1 or 2%, we would get so much more done, because so many of the reasons that we do things are based on how they make us feel, or what we think we'll feel if we do them. And if we didn't do that, if we just used logic and we just used reason a little bit more, I'm not saying we need to become automatons who only apply logic and reason, but if we just could take our emotionality down a little bit, we would be so much more successful as a species. The things that hold us back are usually those emotive decisions. And trust me, you're just as emotive if you're betting on something because you like Elon Musk as if you do something because it makes you feel good. Those things are just, to me, like our biggest stumbling block. Do you agree?
I do agree. I mean, Sia, I don't know. What are you thinking, Bumi?
Yeah, no? Look, it ties into the whole Coca-Cola Cristiano Ronaldo thing, really. If you're not buying Coca-Cola just because Cristiano Ronaldo said so, that's exactly the whole point.
We worship these human beings. They make us feel like we're special, or we're connected to some kind of superhuman quality. And there's no such thing. I mean, Elon Musk isn't. He may be more adventurous. He may be slightly autistic. He may have some really good ideas, and he may have pulled off a success or two, and we'll give him credit for that. Doesn't mean he's superhuman. We keep looking for gods among men, and there are no such things.
But that's the other interesting opportunity here as well, right? Is that, remember, you've got a really emotional market with cryptocurrency, or any other market, actually. Look at all these games, like these, what do they call them, meme stocks. Yeah. But that's the opportunity as well. If you're able to be more objective and kind of look through the noise, and, Warren Buffett had the quote saying, be greedy when others are fearful. Like, that's the opportunity, really, right? I mean, again, easy to say this, so much more difficult to kind of enact when the opportunity arises.
All right. Well, we've got to wrap it up there, I'm afraid. Thank you, Sean. Always good to see you. We will catch up again in a week's time. That's Sean Sanders, who is the co-founder of Revix. You can find out how to go and invest and get a diversified portfolio of crypto assets. Just go and speak to them at Revix, revix.com, revix.com. Thanks, Sean. Good to see you.
Cheers, guys. Thanks so much. Bye.
Man. All right. Coming up, the Burning Platform. It is our chance to catch up on all the big stories of the week, talk a little bit about all the news, but this morning also about energy, because energy is an obviously big subject in South Africa. We've had a couple of weeks of very unstable power supply. We're going to talk a little bit about how Africa deals with energy and how we could better deal with energy. We're going to speak to someone called NJ Ayuk, who is an author. He's also the executive chairman of African Energy Chamber, and we'll find out what he has to say about all of this and more. Phumi Mashego joins me, and we will have you as our special guest after 7 o'clock for The Burning Platform, which is brought to you by Nando's.
Can I tell Sia one thing before he goes away?
Yeah.
Literally, yes. I just read this here, and I'm sure it's going to excite you very much. Like the world's third largest diamond ever
was found.
Just in time for your engagement ring, Sia.
I need to go and find these people.
Look at it. Look at the joy on his face. Look at it.
I am bringing the Bible, the Quran, the Torah. I'm whipping out the verses about sharing. I need to say, my good people, help your fellow man. Give me something.
We got to know more about this, and we will find out in the next hour. Pumi's going to give us some details on where they found it and who owns it and all the rest of it. We'll get to that. But now, central.com, Thursday morning.
This week on Auto Central.
Well, that's what the episode's about today. You know, when we're talking about actually living with an EV. So there's obviously lots of myths and misconceptions about actually owning an EV. What that entails. So just off the bat, what are the 3 words to summarize your experience thus far about owning an EV?
I don't know if I could sum it up in 3 words, but if I try, it's probably fast, tranquil, and then the third one's not quite a word. It's like driving your iPhone. Catch Auto Central, SA's #1 motoring podcast, every Monday at 9 a.m.
Becoming a politician isn't the only way to get a little something on the side. Have a great economic quarter regardless of the state of the nation with a Nando's quarter chicken and any single side for just 49 Rand. Nando's. Fire it up.
Is right, and we are firing it up this morning on the Burning Platform. I've got Phumi Mashego with me, as always. Phums, it's good to have you on the Burning Platform. A lot of people require your wisdom on a weekly basis, and this week is no different. We also talk about some of the stories that affect us most, especially here in the southern part of Africa. And this morning we are joined by NJ Ayuk, who is an author, the executive chairman of the African Energy Chamber. And I suppose there's never been a more important time to discuss energy than right now. So NJ, it's a pleasure to see you. How are you?
It's an honor. It's an honor. I was just watching the show and I don't know if I should get into cryptocurrency, I was looking at these billions at play, and I'm thinking like, I'm looking for billions in energy. There might be an easy way out.
Not only that, but Pumi told us about the third biggest diamond in the world. And I do want to finish that story because these things are always interesting. Africa, if we're not exporting minerals and energy and things we used to export energy. Now we export some minerals, and that's still a large part of our GDP. It's still a huge part of our economy. So where did they find this third biggest diamond, Pums? Was it here in South Africa?
No, in Botswana. So two of the world's biggest diamonds. So of the three, the Cullinan was found here in South Africa, but the other two, Lebone, which is the number one biggest diamond, was found in Botswana. And guess who it belongs to?
Who?
De Beers. But they have a JV. They started a company with the Botswana government, and so they have a 50-50 partnership in Botswana now. And there's a state-owned Botswana company called Okavango, I think it is, that and so they're still deciding if the diamond is going to be sold through De Beers or if it's going to be sold through the state-owned enterprise. But
nice.
and it's quite a thing. Quite a huge thing. And let me tell you, I'm going to tell you how big they say it is.
By the way,
1,098 carat stone. They found it on the 1st of June. So it's still being evaluated.
Yeah, I always feel sorry for the people who have to cut these diamonds, because if you have the biggest diamond in the world or the third biggest diamond in the world in front of you on a table and you cut it wrong and you waste some of it, or you cut it in such a way that it's you break parts of it because nothing is without any kind of flaw. So even these diamonds have flaws in them. It must be a very nerve-wracking thing to actually put that into the machines and start using drills and tools and cutting implements to make it into those beautiful stones that we see with the facets. Anyway, so NJ, it's very good to have you on, and I'm glad that we can talk to you about energy at a time like this. We know that energy is a very controversial issue in South Africa at the moment because our own energy producers are just not producing enough for the need that we have in the community. We've also got this ridiculous monopoly, which is being bailed out the whole time by government. It's been mismanaged into the ground, despite all the advantages that being a monopoly and being someone who provides something which is essential to every industry, essential to every person's life. They keep telling us to use less of their product, which goes against any market rule. And they keep telling us they're going to charge us more for it, even though we're getting less of it and less consistent supply of it from them. It's just the most bizarre situation. And from your point of view, having been someone who's involved in African oil and gas deals, you have a pretty good grasp of the continent's energy landscape. And I suppose maybe we should start off there. We should be energy rich. We should have so much energy in Africa to trade with, to be able to supply to our own people, to supply to business. And yet we seem to be stuck. We seem to be sending what we have away and mismanaging what we have left.
That's true, but I think the first thing to fix our energy problem is to get that diamond out of Botswana and let's cut it on the shelf. It would make it would make getting up early in the morning really more interesting. Just imagine us sitting on the show and we're trying to figure out how to cut diamond. It doesn't matter if we are so bad at it. It would, just a big diamond there, please. It will make life even more interesting and even more better. And we'll wonder why we're not doing that every day. So I think forget the joint ventures. Let's just walk in there. Let's just go. It's like
take it over.
The BS, let us in. We should be like reverse Moses, not let my people go, but let my people in. I think your question is to the point. We have so much energy in Africa, and people have so less energy, and that puzzles everybody. And South Africa, for example, is Eskom, when I was in a business school and law school, used to be an A rated company. And today it is something where people kind of say it's a joke, but It's not a joke when everyday people, their lives are being affected by energy and anything we do. I do believe, though, we need to get it better because our economy, our recovery coming out of COVID cannot survive without the right energy. It's a little bit of a shame that today we are the state of it's tough. It's tough, and South Africa is that one country where everybody looks to get some kind of hope. And where you go to learn, if it's bad out there, you say, where should I learn more? And that's where we are right now.
So Pums, I mean, this is something you and I have spoken about a couple of times. You actually had Ted Blom on the other day, who's been looking into the disgraceful state of Eskom. And where does it all fall apart? Does it fall apart because we don't have the skill set, or does it fall apart because we put crooked politicians in those positions of authority and they see a way to steal from the fiscus? Where does it go wrong? Because both of those, you could argue, are parts of the problem, right?
Now, I had a very interesting discussion with some friends a couple of days ago, and about when Brian Damas first got to Eskom. One of the things that he observed was how much of the critical skill component got stripped away from Eskom, and we're in that cycle again. A lot of people retired, a lot of people left with their skills, and so there's a huge chunk of inexperienced people in the space, even just the everyday workers, and not enough of the experienced managerial position. And it's across the board, right? It's not just at Eskom. It happens to a lot of organizations over time, that the reskilling, that the upskilling, that the new people coming in don't also have the institutional knowledge, and then we're stuck with all of, and we were speaking about maintenance earlier today. These are a huge businesses that need lots of maintenance, ongoing maintenance. But after a while, you also have a huge recapitalization of the project that needs to happen. And I think all of those forces are converging in places like Eskom for us. And I'm NJ, I'm very interested to know about alternatives, energy alternatives that we have, because Africa also has huge repositories of gas, natural gases. Are those places that are still untapped in South Africa, or unutilized or underutilized?
They are, and that is South Africa is one of the most blessed countries when it comes into natural resources. And when you look at alternatives, let's look at where we are today. Today, we're in a world where everybody's talking about energy transition. We need to move away from coal because of the environment. We need to move away from oil because of the environment. And you're looking at renewables, but renewables would have to be heavily subsidized by the government. But now you're also seeing a situation where South Africa has more renewables than any African country, but it's still not enough, because you have to run heavy industries and you really have to run a lot of manufacturing that you have to manufacture for everybody. But natural gas in South Africa, it is the most unexplored, untapped reserves of natural gas, which is a clean fossil fuel, which you can use natural gas to really power South Africa. There is no reason why Mozambique, for example, Mozambique is going to be the third largest producers of natural gas in the world, just below Qatar and Russia. You've had discoveries in South Africa. We are not using. So at one point, you have to definitely look at what the politicians are doing with the right kind of regulations. We are stuck in a position while they are still debating regulations that would help drive this. I mean, everybody is jumping up and shouting about what the president just did with regards to, freeing up it and giving PM private sector to go from 1 megawatt to 100 megawatt. Like, why did it take so long? Why did it take so long? Why did you have to wait? Why did you have to wait until crisis before you're doing that? And now you have natural gas that you can use in South Africa. We are not using it. We are going to wait, but we are rather going to spend so much money to build pipelines and bring in natural gas from either Mozambique or Tanzania or from everywhere when you have it at home. They used to say charity begins at home. Use what you have at home to take care of your people. Then you can look outside for other people. But we rather import rather than export. My mama always said, if you buying, you're never going to get rich. If you're selling, you're going to get rich. So I think we need to start thinking about selling energy to South Africans and also exporting to regional markets.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I think that our reserves here, which we do have, we have incredible reserves of coal, oil, gas in South Africa and Southern Africa, and we're just not exploiting them properly. And because perhaps the developed world keeps telling us that these are bad things, they create fossil fuels, and look, all of that is true, but they can't hold us ransom and stop our development and stop us from being able to take advantage of what natural products we have and possess, because they want to clear the air. And if we're going to do it, then China must do it too, and India must do it too. They're not going to listen to anybody. Instead, let's try to get enough energy into our own businesses, into our own heavy industry. And we can't do that, NJ. We can't do that with solar and wind power. There's just not enough, right?
It's not enough. Also, pay attention to this. Europe has emitted carbon emissions 14 times more than the entire African continent. The United States 17 times more than the entire African continent. China 21 times. India 16 times. And now Africa is being made to pay for the sins of others when you have a continent that has 850 million people for me without any access to electricity. Clean cooking is bad in the continent. And guess what? Even those who have some kind of electricity, for those who live in the cities in South Africa, you got something, I don't know if they understand that in Europe or America, it's called load shedding. And so you still have to ration out electricity, and that is really tough. So there's something where you're looking at climate justice, energy justice, and so you can't tell Africans that you're going to be perpetually energy poor, electricity poor, because you want to make Europeans who use your energy so happy. You have to make them happy, and now you have to be punished, and you have to feel guilty for you just trying to get a little leg up and to use your electricity for yourself. I think that's wrong, and that's unjust to Africans.
And we keep being sold duds. We keep being sold duds. I was just reading this morning that China continues to build coal-fired power stations. They've tried the clean energy. They tried nuclear with Mao Zedong, and that didn't work for them. And that's why they went back to the coal plant. Japan has over 130 coal-fired power stations. 130, guys. And here in South Africa, where we have ample reserves of coal, we're like being sold nuclear. Come on.
Shut it down.
By Rosatom, the Russian nuclear people. Now, this is obviously something that in the very long term.
Macron was here doing? What do you think Macron was doing? There are two big nuclear players, France and Russia. He's seen our president twice in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. But, in the long run, I think everybody accepts we do want to move to these sustainable energy producers, but we're not going to get there in a hurry. And there's a huge amount of development and technology that needs to take place in order to first of all harness this energy, and second of all to store it. And nobody is under any illusion, no matter how much propaganda there is about this stuff, and there really is. We've got to also acknowledge that the world is pumping out propaganda. It's not even CO2 emissions. It's propaganda in favor of renewable resources, which is just not true, that this stuff can suddenly power the world, that if we put up enough solar panels or we put up enough windmills, that we'll have enough power for Johannesburg. It's just a pipe dream. It's not a real thing. And there's a lot that has to happen before that kicks in. But NJ, I mean, in terms of coal, Pumi's right. We have unbelievable resources when it comes to coal. And these coal-fired power stations are extremely effective if they run properly and if they're maintained properly. And that's where we fall off the train again, because we have people running them who are not capable of running them.
I think you're right, but we have to look at clean coal. You can make coal cleaner and better than it has ever been. And I think they should be focusing on technology to make coal cleaner. And that's what we need to be looking at, because we have these abundant resources here. But also the idea that they think every African by 2030 is going to be driving a Tesla. You know, I live in reality. I don't believe that we need to be living in La La Land and having La La Land theories as we go and play with our energy. And if you also come into this day and you tell people that shut down your coal mines, walk away from coal, don't use it, and you have no alternatives for them, that is really something that we have to worry about. And I'm still puzzled that the International Energy Agency, with all these so-called smart people, with all their nice fancy degrees out of La Sorbonne and Oxford and Harvard, are they sitting drinking latte? I mean, you're drinking probably black coffee. These guys are drinking latte with almond milk in the morning, and they are saying every African is going to be driving a Tesla by 2030. I mean, stop and think for a minute. They don't have lights. They don't have infrastructure. They cannot power that. You're taking the little bit of what they can have, coal, gas, oil, that can really give them a chance. And yes, we have to be held accountable. We have to manage it better. We have to really, really be more transparent, and we have to ensure proper governance. But you're going to take that away, and then you say, we'll give you foreign aid. We'll give you some handouts. We have spent so much time, and I was in Germany, and I told them, I said, you guys have been played, you guys have been conned, because you've spent almost $800 billion on foreign aid to Africa, and you had nothing back. So Africans don't need aid. Africans need you, number one, leave them to run their coal and their oil and their gas, support them to manage it properly, but don't cut off investment. Right now, there is a massive divestment campaign. More than anything we've seen, 41 of the biggest hedge funds, private equity funds are saying, don't invest in South Africa coal. That is worse than anything you do to a country like South Africa. Don't invest in South Africa coal, cut off the funds. But you know what South Africa is going, and other African countries are going to be left with? They're going to be left with China. So the Europeans and the Americans, I've never seen the best business development managers for the Chinese. So they are basically opening Africa up and say, well, we trust China to do this, because China is not going to listen to what France or Germany or the United States says. They'll walk right in, and we know what has happened with deals done by China. So if you want to see more mismanagement, if you want to see more state capture, if you want to see more things that would turn out really, really bad, especially for free markets and limited government and driving people up, I don't think we can rely on China to do that. And look at issues around women's rights and everything, where we're content that is going to be 52%. We're grappling with these social issues and austerity happening around, where we women in Ireland, I mean, I represent the African Unity Chamber. It's something I'm always ashamed of. Women have always been the last hired, the first fired. Now it's a time when women can move into the industry. Skills do not exist that need to really drive people up. Now is the time when we can really push that. You're telling us that these social ills that we as Africans are trying to correct, it's going to be stopped because you want to make my little sister in Scandinavian, I don't know, I cannot remember her name, Greta, you want to make her happy. What about the young young girls in Africa happier? But I mean, when Greta goes up to put up her publicity stunts at Davos, she goes on an airplane. She drives a car. All of it is fueled by natural resources. So I think the question is that what are we going to do about it? Because it looks like we are all driving this train because we want easy money. We want foreign aid because they will give us this easy cash.
We never get that easy money, us ordinary citizens in these countries. It's our political leaders and our supposed masters who get that money. And therefore, when Cyril does go cap in hand to the G7, as he did last week, our president, then we know that there's nothing in it for us. We know that when Emmanuel Macron comes here, we know there's nothing in it for us, but there could be something in it for Cyril, and there could be for all his other cadres. And we know that this has happened all over the continent. So maybe it's time that we disrupt this relationship between crooked politicians in Africa and crooked politicians in Europe and elsewhere, in China, as you rightly mentioned. And we stop...
by cryptocurrency.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know how we're going to do it, but maybe that's a start. Maybe that's a start. Sure.
Well, I'm also very interested, NJ, to hear your ideas around opportunities for entrepreneurship in the energy sector.
Yeah, I mean, tell us about your book on that note, because, I mean, you do discuss that in your book, among other things. That's a good question, Pums.
I'll tell you this. I wrote the book Billions at Play, so I was so happy coming this morning, and I'm hearing you guys talking billions, and I'm like, this is my kind of show. This is where I need to be in early in the morning, But you look at that, you see entrepreneurship exists everywhere in energy. Because when you look at South Africa, for example, it's the most industrialized country, the most developed. There is going to be, I think my next book should be Trillions at Play. There's going to be trillions of dollars poured into the African energy market for energy. What are you looking at? You're looking at pipelines that are going to be built. You're looking at new structures with regards to getting, what it is, engineering, logistics, supplies, catering. People only think about, the 15, 20-year experienced guy who's a petroleum engineer. No. Every part of our commerce is part of it. Also looking at small-scale gas to power plants. So imagine you could be in Mpumalanga, or you could be in Durban, and you could be working on building 1 to 2 megawatts of a gas plant. So you might not really need to go out there and wait for somebody else to do it, but you could come up together as a cooperative or community and build that. And you could, first of all, power your community, get a lot of stuff for your own people, but really drive up. But let's take a step forward. We can use whether it's our coal or gas and become more entrepreneurial and not just wait for others to do it. We can build urea, ammonia, NPK fertilizer plants. With those fertilizer plants, we power our agricultural bases because we need to eat. Okay, I love food. So so if you don't power your houses, then you have a problem. So the whole ecosystem and value chain is big. And that's one of the things which I wrote about Billions at Play, was that we need more free markets. We need to cut out regulations. We need to limit government interference. We need to know that everyday people, we underestimate their power. If you give them that opportunity, reduce taxes. Because right now, you just tax. The African entrepreneur is taxed and regulated so much that you have to sit back there. Your ingenuity to go out and say, I'm going to do that, it's been taken away from you. And that is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, these are the same governments who tell us that we must trust them, but they don't trust us enough to let us do business. And there are so many bright, sharp, street-smart young Africans running around this continent trying to make things happen. And unfortunately for many of them, NJ, the reality is that the red tape and the bureaucracy and the amount of government nonsense that they have to put up with almost makes it not worthwhile. They may as well go and work for someone else who's already got an established corporation where they have communications with government, they have all kinds of preferential treatment. They don't have to deal with the kinds of difficulties that small businesses have to deal with. And you talk about fertilizer plants and chemicals like urea and ammonia and the various nitrates and phosphates that we could be producing. I mean, this is an incredibly powerful part of any civilized economy, and it's something we could do so well in this continent. We've already got fertile ground. We've already got labor. We've already got people who need to find sustainable ways to feed themselves and their communities. So there's a supply and a demand part of this equation which we can fulfill.
There is. I mean, again, what I would say, make it very simple. 850 million people have no access to electricity or clean cooking. That is a business plan. That is a business model. Because if you can figure out how to get small power, any kind of power, any kind of electricity into these 800 million people, step by step, block by block, break by break, you will get there. But something always happens. And it's like what you just said. Look at immigration. We end up trying every day to move to different countries, different communities, because we don't have access to energy. People understand that. If I'm living in Royal Zimbabwe or I'm living in Royal Mozambique with no access to any kind of power, any kind of electricity, what do? I'll move anywhere. You can the burdens and everything. I need hope. I need something that will give me some kind of hope that my life can be better. And then the cities get crowded, and when the people move in cities, they can't find the hope, the aspirations are not met. Crime goes up, and opportunities get lost. But also look at this. You're talking about government action that can really hurt. Africa Oil Week, big conference exhibition that happened in South Africa for more than 27 years. South African government brought all of Africa, sponsored this, everybody. Now, these boys from London come on down here, they say, well, South Africa is not safe anymore. We need to move to Dubai because there is COVID in South Africa. So we take a big franchise, a lot of massive money, sponsored by the South African government and many African governments and politicians, and we would move it to Dubai. Jobs are going to be lost because Africa got COVID. And I say, these are some of the decisions that we do that is really, forgive my French, really stupid. Because at the end of the day, F&B workers have been hit so hard in the city of Cape Town. The little guy, the everyday person who did logistics, drivers, all the people who were hoping to get some kind of relief, some kind of job to pick their life up back, they say no. And they try to sell us some phony thing and saying, let's take all the energy companies. Let's go now to Dubai. And our government are sponsoring that. For me, so if you look at that kind of outrageous decision, I mean, let's no disrespect to Dubai. I visit Dubai, but Dubai got more COVID than Cape Town. Dubai got more variants than Cape Town, and you can do this online. There's no need moving because the Dubai government gives you a little bit of money, and you quick to abandon South Africa, abandon Africa for greener pastures. So in times of need, our own politicians are financing these jobs. It's like African Nations Cup being played in Dubai instead of South Africa.
I just want to stop you there because apparently our deputy president, I know, Pumi, you're so excited to hear from Didi Mabuza, but he's going to go to Parliament to answer some questions about Eskom and our COVID-19 vaccination procedures. Are there any answers that Didi Mabuza can give that will help any of us to plot the way forward? Or is it just going to be an opportunity for opposition politicians to prove how stupid he is again?
Well, I would say you pray, and you pray harder, and you hope and you hope for divine intervention. And
what do you think of this? I mean, do you believe that the National Council of Provinces are going to give Didi Mabuza a grilling for the right reasons, or do you think it's just another cheap political piece of theatre?
Cheap political piece of theatre. Even if they do give him a grilling, what does he have to say? What is there for him to say that we haven't heard in the past 4 weeks from director, right?
Supposedly he's gonna talk about Kusile Power Station and answer the political questions on why the project is still not on schedule.
It's grandstanding. Where has he been for the past? Where has he been for the past 6 months? What job is that man doing? Come on.
Absolutely. Wasn't there a point last year where we thought he died of COVID because we hadn't seen him in so long?
Oh, I thought he was being like cured of poisoning in Russia. Who knows?
So I want to ask you guys about this, because a big story this week has been the consortium that has bought 51% of South African Airways at an incredible discount. But it turns out that the Takatso consortium, which was announced by Pravin Gordhan last week as the majority owner of SAA, includes the Harith Group Executive Director. We've got someone called Tsepo Mahohlele. Mahlwele, sorry, correct. And then we've got in there Jabu Moleketi, who's the former Deputy Finance Minister. So,
and Popo Molefe.
So this is great. I mean, just more ANC people getting their hands on more of the assets. This is not going to save SAA, is it?
I don't think so. I think SAA, again, my energy industry, aviation is very connected to us. And I always tell people, our prices are going up because people are flying again. SAA has been down. Airlink has been like the star of South Africa. Who would have thought that Airlink would be the savior of travel in South Africa right now? But they're doing an amazing job. SAA it's a shame. It's a shame when you look at what's going on there. And just at the point where you thought you really need to have great reform, whether it is comes in cutting down staff, cutting down waste, cutting down mismanagement, and really turning this thing around, you are going into basically offering the company to a group that is not tried. You don't know if it's true. They're not tested. And you might end up using state money to
they do have Gilon Novick, who gave us Kulula.
Yeah, they do, but this is what they said. And I'm so tired of people speaking this patronizing language to ordinary South Africans, and particularly to black South Africans, saying this stuff like it makes any difference in their lives. Here they say, transformation will be core to SAA, including accelerated training and promotion of qualified black pilots and a broad-based employee incentive scheme. Is any of this going to trickle down into the pockets of ordinary black South Africans, or is this just more claptrap from a bunch of people who think we still buy their bullshit?
Well, I think sometimes they take us for being stupid. I think what is really insulting is that we need to move away from theatrics. And I think at the end of the day, you cannot treat black people as if they're monolith, as if they don't think anymore. And we need to stop getting with all these ideas where you fire people up and get emotional and use their race or gender to really help make poor decisions. What really matters right now is that we are in a situation where those that get affected the most at the end up being black, being poor, and end up being women. So the race baiting has to stop, because we have gotten to a point where, I always say this and people laugh, not all my skin folks are my kin folks. The fact that you're my color doesn't mean you're my kind. We need to start really holding ourselves accountable, because if we continue to use this radical transformation and race transformation and all of that, it really holds us back. It depletes us from really setting up an agenda that would really improve the lives of those same people we claim to represent. because at the end of the day, they are not getting anything. They are still on subsidies. You are not going to build homes and families out of subsidies. You need to turn these people into taxpayers, and you need to expand that tax base, which we all need. But also, dignity. There is dignity in work. There is dignity in work. And more than anything, the true transformation that we need is that transformation that creates jobs, that transformation that comes with dignity in work, that transformation that comes with us being treated as people. And this is no longer a time when we need to get into the gotcha games and still use the same old soundbite which we have used in the past. It's like, nice try, but we gotcha. It's not working anymore. We need to change the game.
Well, NJ, I mean,
for real.
What you just said now is like music to my ears, and I'll give Pumi a chance to reply. But I do want to refer to United Democratic Movement leader Bantu Holomisa, who said similarly this week. He said that allegations against the Harith fund manager, its CEO Mahluele, and non-executive chairperson at the time Moleketi. He says these guys used their positions where they were at the PIC before this to enrich themselves. And they say, oh, no, that's not true. But obviously, this is a relationship that they built under the PIC, the Public Investment Corporation. This is how they managed to sway the Department of Public Enterprises, which is old Pravin Gordhan and company, into selling them 51% controlling stake in SAA. It's all corrupt. It's all rotten and corrupt, right, Pums?
You know, I feel like we're always going around in the circle that says our politicians and our politics has seeped into every aspect of our lives, so much so that we can't even see the wood for the trees anymore, right? Every single one of these transactions, they're so embedded, you know. Bantu, bless his heart, but he's also got his own problems and his own skeletons. We need a new crop of heroes. We need a new crop of diligent, determined, principled people, whether it is in business, in the private sector, or in government. That's what we need. We need people who have the best interest of the country going forward, people who want to see all of us do better. But we're not going to have the same old, and hope that we're going to get a new result. So Harith, Jabu Mleketi, and Mahluele, they were part of Petro SA at that Petro SA deal. And how well did that go? So why do you think, we're doing the same thing and hoping for different results? Wow. Sounds insane to me.
It's worth referring also, and I'd like your comments on this one too, NJ and Pumi. Jesse Duarte has apologized to the staff at the party headquarters at the Thuli House because they haven't been paid since May. In fact, they haven't been paid since April. They're still waiting for their May salaries. So this is the party that tells us at the elections every year, every time we go to the polls, they go, oh, we're the guys who will manage the economy. They can't even manage their own house. We spoke earlier, Pumi, about maintenance of your own house and my own house and how difficult it is to be a property owner. When you are elected as the representatives who will take a country forward or let it slide backwards, and you cannot manage your own staff and your own household, which is what this is, then that's the whole story, right? These people are completely out of their depth in the ANC. And, Jesse Duarte comes out and apologizes. Do you think that's going to feed those families of people who work for the ANC? Apparently, I heard the reason that this happens is that every time there's a new top six, they bring their own staff in. But they don't get rid of the old staff. They keep them on the payroll. Now, I mean, NJ's laughing because if you ran a business that way, you'd go out of business in a couple of days, but not if you're the ANC, right?
Because they expect that the money would come in and it would come in from somewhere. So you need to really look at more campaign finance reform. But the truth of the matter is, how do you not pay ANC workers? It's stunning. It is a blockbuster. And again, that is a reflection of where we are. That is a reflection on, and that comes a bigger reflection on how decisions are made and how everyday not only South Africans. And I'll take this a little bit bigger. We have gotten accustomed to this. We have become very complacent.
Not angry enough.
Mm-hmm.
We it comes, we laugh, we say, okay, it's not okay. We say, well, that's just the way it is. It's not the way it is. We say, that's the new strategy. That's the new way. And if we get complacent with that and we accept that, the next thing is, 1 billion gone away from your tax dollars. Well, that's expected. And so what happens? It affects more young people. And we're talking about energy. Young people are not going to be thinking a lot more and saying, I want to study engineering. I want to study other kind of sciences to find solutions. I want to study management. Everybody's going to be saying, I want to go into that business where I would not be held accountable. I will make so much money, and I would.
I don't have to work so hard.
I don't have to work so hard. I just have to demonize, dehumanize, and tribalize everything and trivialize my society, and I will still get paid. And even if I don't pay people who work for me, tough luck. But you know what? I'll be at Aston Martin while you'll be trying to catch the bus. If there's even a bus and the road would have potholes, even from Aston Martin, it doesn't matter. It doesn't work well. And I think it's really sad because we're sending the wrong message. And right now we've gotten used to it. And we're saying, well, it's okay. We expected that. No, it's not okay. It's not okay, right? Because that mom that works at the party has kids to feed. That dad that works there has kids to put through school.
Don't be under any illusion. I'm absolutely sure that Jessie Duarte got her salary.
I don't know, but I would have to check with SARS.
Oh, no, she doesn't. She probably hasn't paid tax, but she did get her salary. I mean, this is how it works if you're politically connected in this country, as we've seen time and time again.
Multiple income streams. She doesn't need that one salary.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. She probably doesn't know the price of bread. That's always an interesting thing to do, is to go and ask a politician, and they do it in Europe often. They'll just ask the prime minister suddenly out of questions. They'll go, how much is a loaf of bread? And usually they don't know the answer. But you ask someone who's living on the bread line how much bread costs, they always know the answer, because to them it's a question of survival. These politicians have no idea what ordinary people go through.
And that is exactly why, when I wrote my book, the biggest critics I got were some politicians. They said you are being too tough, or it's not easy. I said, just use what you have and manage what you have and do it better, because Africa is changing. Our communities are changing. People expect more. But I was in the Gambia the other day, and I think this would happen in South Africa, and it's a really shame. There was a mother who was going to have a cesarean, and the lights went off. The lights went off, and you could imagine what happened to that mother and that baby, because in the hospital was the doctors couldn't walk, and I was thinking about going back home in South Africa and saying, in rural communities, how much of that happens that people don't really see, and we don't really pay attention to that, because our value for human life, our value for one another, it has become so cheapened. It has become so we start to see where people start going back and saying, well, let's take guns away. Guns are the problem. No, not guns are not the problem. People are the problem, because people do shoot guns. Okay, people are the problem, and why we're looking at the effect. What is the cause? Why do we have so much crime? Why do we have all of that? So we have to really put the whole puzzle together and stop being very reactionary, as the politicians are doing today. And then when you really look at that, the crime is still going up. And then you start saying, what's the cause of the biggest cause of crime is our decisions and the politics around it. Because somebody last week was a nobody. Today is somebody because they got involved in politics. And the other guy thinks, well, let me pick up a gun and try to get engaged in crime because my neighborhoods are bad. And if we don't pay attention, it is going to get worse. And I'm an optimist that it is going to get worse. It is going to get worse because people are tired. People are tired. And they aren't paying attention anymore.
I'm going to give you the last word for this morning, Pums. I mean, there have been a lot of stories in the news. We've covered decaplets and we've covered the biggest diamond that they've just found. But I mean, these are all, we keep coming back. And I do sometimes feel like we're singing the same song on the Burning Platform about, these corrupt relationships, how little we need the politicians in our lives. For many people, these things it almost feels like it's a repetition. But there are always those stories that you find that make you feel a little bit better. Is there anything that you've got to leave us on an optimistic note this week?
I don't know if it's an optimistic note, but I did want to say what little coverage was gotten by the story of Brian Chibambo, the brother of Floyd, who, when implicated in the VBS scandal, Julius and the minions all were up in arms to say they got no benefit from VBS. He worked for all the money that he got. Hana. And very quietly last week, he signs a statement, acknowledgement of debt, and says he will pay back the money he apparently worked so hard for, which 2 years ago had never even received. But now actually he's going to pay it back. And not a peep from the minions. Not a peep from the minions, not a huge splashed out story, and it is fraud. For him to admit that he received this money and did not do the work for it is fraud. Why is he not going to prison?
Yeah, how come he can get a deal? You couldn't get that deal, could you? NJ and I couldn't get that deal. No.
So I don't know if it's an optimistic story or not. So he's acknowledged that he did something wrong, and he's acknowledging that he received money for something he did not do, and he's acknowledging that he shouldn't have received this money, and he's gone further to say, actually, I will pay back this money. And I have a question. He's got no job. How is he going to pay back this money? But anyway.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad you brought that.
It is from taxpayers.
Yeah, he'll get it he'll steal it from old people at VBS again, a second time. He'll steal from old people's pensions that they've spent their whole life saving for, so that they could give their children and their grandchildren a better life. Unbelievable. The callousness of it is just revolting. Anyway, I do.
The NPA has to step up.
Absolutely, but haven't we been saying that for months as well? Shamila Batoy, please. NJ, it's a great pleasure to meet you and to have you on the show this morning. NJ Ayuk is the author and also executive chairman at the African Energy Chamber. He's written a book called Billions at Play, which you may be very interested in. Billions at Play, the future of African energy and doing deals. Thank you so much for your time this morning. This is the Burning Platform, which is brought to you by Nando's. Thank you. We will see you next week, Thursday, for more of this. And that is a wrap on the Burning Platform for today. Have an excellent day in the company of cliffcentral.com and make sure that you make the most of this